Today we're counting down the 10 wildest Predator ripoffs that actually deserve a spot on your cult movie watch list. From micro-budget alien hunters chasing teens in city streets to international gems featuring foam suits, TV-grade monsters, and stars cashing in. Number 10 is Star Hunter, a film that proves you don't need a real budget to deliver maximum B-movie chaos. Roddy McDowall, legendary for his Shakespearean gravitas, spends the entire movie in sunglasses, playing a teacher who looks like he's hiding from both the alien threat and the script. The alien itself? A bargain bin Cylon knockoff, armed with a shotgun that never runs out of shells. Fred Olen Ray was called in to rescue the movie with just $11,000, cobbling together 30 minutes of new footage using friends, garage props, and quick daytime shoots disguised as night. Invisible force fields trap teens on LA streets, while the CGI monster seems to have escaped from a rejected toy commercial. Star Hunter is pure, joyful cheese, proof that resourcefulness and a sense of humor can turn even the shabbiest effects into cult gold. RoboWar storms in like Predator's rowdy Italian cousin, swapping alien hunters for a wobbly tin robot named Omega-1 and a commando squad led by Reb Brown at full volume. Director Bruno Mattei shot the film deep in the Philippine jungle, often without permits, and with a crew fresh off strike commando. The monster suit shakes with every step, looking equal parts Halloween costume and hardware store project. Synth-pop music blares over every chase, sounding like a speak and spell gone haywire. Explosions, machine gun fire, and cardboard robotics fill every scene, all stitched together with the kind of bravado only Italian B-movie makers could muster. Xtro slithered onto British screens in 1983, advertising itself as the anti-ET, and delivering on that threat with a fever dream of latex, slime, and practical gore. The film's signature moment arrives when a woman impregnated by a tentacle down her throat gives birth to a full-grown man in a scene so grotesque it landed Xtro on police seizure lists during the UK's video nasties panic. Director Harry Bromley Davenport leaned into the madness, crafting effects that look homemade but hit harder than any digital trickery. Rotten Tomatoes may clock it at 44%, but nothing else feels quite this unhinged or this unforgettable. Project Shadow Chaser lands right in the heart of 1990s direct-to-video bravado, swapping jungle warfare for a die-hard scenario inside a hospital under siege. The villain isn't an alien, but a relentless android named Romulus, played with icy precision and heavy prosthetic makeup. Martin Covey pops up in a classic veteran actor cameo, chewing scenery, as only a genre pro can. The film's budget went further than you'd expect, with slick stunts, glass-shattering shootouts, and early CGI muzzle flashes that look charmingly primitive today. Mariam Diabo spends most of the runtime as a hostage, while New Image's penny-pinching tricks somehow deliver a glossy finish. Shadow Chaser bridges the gap between 80s pulp and the sleeker hybrids of the 90s, proving that with enough Polish and a killer android, even a copycat can shine. Alien Predators is what happens when a Spanish production team grabs a NASA headline, a handful of American teens, and a glob of puppet slime, then throws it all into an RV touring rural Spain. The movie's plot kicks off with real-life inspiration, Skylab's fiery crash in 1979. In this version, the debris doesn't just make the news, it unleashes a space parasite that turns locals into body-hopping monsters. The filmmakers doubled down on confusion, releasing the movie as The Falling in some regions, and blending horror with road trip comedy. Out of nowhere, a flying doll named Talking Tina, complete with chicken legs, shows up to terrorize the cast. Every encounter promises either gooey puppet attacks or a bizarre fatality, all set against the Spanish countryside. It's a mashup of genres, titles, and tones, but somehow, the chaos is half the fun. DNA drops viewers into the steamy jungles of Borneo, where Mark Dacascos punches, flips, and kicks his way through a monster movie that borrows Predator's blueprint, but adds its own wild flavor. The villain is a mad scientist obsessed with resurrecting the ancient Balakau, a dino-demon hybrid brought to life with practical effects and a rubber suit sporting detachable mandibles. Dacascos, fresh off martial arts glory, brings real athleticism to the chase, leaping over swamp labs and dodging claws in fight scenes that outshine the script. VHS collectors remember this one for its swampy sets, clunky editing, and a monster that looks like it wandered off the set of a Saturday morning cartoon. DNA proves that even with a recycled plot and bargain bin creature, a committed action star can turn jungle chaos into a cult favorite. UPN's Code Red. The Rubicon Conspiracy swapped late-night cable sleaze for the strict world of primetime TV, where monsters had to play by network rules. Instead of a jungle, the action unfolds in a dusty African command bunker, with a military rescue team stumbling onto a secret alien experiment gone sideways. The twist? One of the aliens decides to help the humans, flipping the usual hunt or be hunted script. Network censors kept the creature effects PG-13, so the alien looks more like a rubbery cousin of Enemy Mine than a nightmare from Predator. Attacks happen mostly in shadow or off-screen, and every drop of blood is replaced by tense glances and dramatic sound cues. With a budget closer to a sitcom pilot than a blockbuster, Code Red leans into its limitations, delivering a sci-fi adventure that's as much X-Files as Predator, and somehow all the more charming for it. Without Warning arrived in 1980, quietly laying down the blueprint for the alien hunter genre 7 years before Schwarzenegger hit the jungle. On a shoestring, $150,000 budget, director Graydon Clark assembled a cast that reads like a drive-in fever dream. Jack Palance, all gravel and menace, playing a truck stop owner who's seen too much. Martin Landau, channeling wild-eyed paranoia as a Vietnam vet convinced the truth is out there. And Kevin Peter Hall, towering in the role of the alien, years before he'd become the definitive Predator. The film's most unforgettable touch? Flying jellyfish-like creatures that latch onto victims, flung across the woods by monofilament and sheer audacity. Rick Baker, already a legend for his monster work, crafted the alien's head for $19,000. While a young Greg Canham handled the creature effects, skills he'd later bring to Jurassic Park and Titanic. Without Warning didn't just predate Predator, it gave the world its first real taste of the hunter from space formula, elevated by actors who took every bizarre moment seriously. That blend of earnest performances and practical ingenuity turned what could have been late-night filler into a cult classic that still feels ahead of its time. Antonio Margheriti's The Last Hunter loads up on firepower and booby traps but swaps out aliens for the most dangerous prey of all, humans. Shot on a mix of Cinecittà backlots and the dense jungles of Thailand, this Italian Vietnam War epic throws its commando hero into a gauntlet of rifle-triggered explosives and napalm blasts, all realized with miniatures and practical effects that would make any pyromaniac proud. Claudio Fragaso's script doesn't waste time on subtlety. Every tunnel is rigged to blow, every ambush ends in a shower of debris, and the body count climbs with every squib. The film's infamous rifle trap kill predates Predator's own jungle tricks, proving that human ingenuity and a little Italian bravado can rival any intergalactic hunter. The Last Hunter is a grimy, relentless spectacle where the real monster is war itself, and the explosions are as over-the-top as the genre ever delivered. Bangus takes the #1 spot by going all in on the Predator formula, Filipino style. Instead of Hollywood muscle, a local commando squad treks through thick jungle, hunted by a creature that looks like it was built from gym mats, spray paint, and pure determination. The monster's rubber suit bends and creases with every move, the seams as visible as the actor's effort to keep from overheating in the Manila sun. Dialogue bounces between Tagalog and English, with lines dubbed and redubbed for home video releases, creating a soundscape as patchwork as the effects. There's no shame in the imitation here. Bangus copies the original's plot beat for beat, from the jungle showdowns to the final mano-a-mano standoff, but swaps out Hollywood polish for local flavor and infectious energy. Shot for what industry experts estimate was well under $300,000, Bengus skipped theaters and found life in the wild world of Filipino VHS clubs, where midnight screenings packed in genre fans eager for monsters and mayhem. The film's cult status grew thanks to these late-night marathons, with battered tapes passed around and fans quoting lines that sometimes didn't even match the actor's lips. In a world where budget limitations usually mean disaster, Bengus proves that heart, resourcefulness, and a good rubber suit can turn imitation into a celebration. No other Predator knockoff wears its influences so proudly, or inspires such loyal, laughing admiration. From the foam rubber chaos of Bengus at number 1 to the accidental genius of Star Hunter, this countdown reveals just how far filmmakers would go to chase the Predator formula. Across all 10 entries, the pattern is clear. Tight budgets didn't stop wild ambition. Whether it was Italian directors blending genres in Robo-War, British shock value in Extro, or drive-in proto-predators like Without Warning, each film found new ways to remix creature-hunting mayhem. The most surprising thread? Resourceful practical effects and earnest performances often trumped glossy visuals, making even the silliest monsters memorable. These films qualified by turning imitation into cult-worthy entertainment, proving that creativity thrives under constraint. Ultimately, the world of Predator ripoffs is less about copying and more about relentless invention, where every defective suit or bizarre twist becomes a badge of cinematic charm. These cosmic disasters have earned their place in B-movie history, reminding us that sometimes the best homages are born from pure, unfiltered madness. From bargain bin robot cops and shameless fake sequels to over-the-top international oddities that twist the killer cyborg formula in ways you would never expect, each film on this ranking proves you do not need James Cameron's budget to leave a mark. Let's kick off the countdown with our number 7 entry, the ultimate in low-budget American cyborg cheese. Number 7, ROTOR from 1987. Straight out of Texas, ROTOR is the definition of bargain bin cyborg action. An American answer to the Terminator made with a budget that's rumored to hit $2.7 million, though nobody's ever produced a real receipt. Shot in Dallas and pushed straight to VHS, it's packed with cardboard robots, mulleted cops, and dialogue that sounds like it was written during a lunch break. Fan lore claims 45,000 tapes shipped out, and in some corners of the South, it supposedly topped rental charts in 1989. Again, the numbers are as fuzzy as the effects. What's not in doubt is its cult status. Late-night cable reruns, endless YouTube roasts, and a reputation for unintentional comedy that's never faded. ROTOR sets the bar for low-budget knockoffs. Cheap, clunky, and somehow still a blast. Number 6, Shocking Dark, 1990. Italy's answer to the Terminator didn't just copy the formula, it hijacked the name. Shot in Rome, this sci-fi knockoff was shipped overseas as Terminator 2, plastered on posters across the Philippines and Europe years before Cameron's real sequel hit theaters. The film's plot is a Frankenstein patchwork of cyborg chases and gooey mutant attacks, but the real spectacle is the marketing ploy. Foreign buyers snapped up rights based on nothing but a title and a VHS cover, driving pre-sales to 6 times its tiny €400,000 budget. There was never any official license, just a bold gamble that copyright lawyers wouldn't notice or couldn't catch up. Shocking Dark's legacy isn't craft, it's the sheer nerve of selling a fake sequel to the world and getting away with it. Number 5, Hands of Steel, 1986. Only in the wild world of Italian knockoffs could a cyborg assassin wind up in the middle of a desert arm wrestling tournament. Directed by Sergio Martino, this movie throws out any pretense of subtlety and dives headfirst into Euro sleaze action. The plot? A half-metal hitman is sent to kill an eco-scientist, but after a crisis of conscience, he hides out in a grimy Arizona bar, where, naturally, arm wrestling is king. Daniel Green, who did nearly all his own stunts, sweats through neon-lit brawls and synth-heavy chases, while a parade of muscle-bound locals line up to take him down. Shot in the US and Mexico borderlands on a shoestring budget, just over €1 million, The film recouped costs through European TV deals and late-night festival runs. Hands of Steel isn't just a Terminator ripoff, it's a fever dream where cyborgs and sports movies collide, and somehow it works. Number 4. Cyborg Cop, 1993. If you ever wondered what the Terminator might look like after a week in the Caribbean sun, this is your answer. Cyborg Cop doesn't waste time on subtlety. Right from the jump, it's all about machine gun mayhem, mad scientists, and a villain's lair straight out of a pulp comic. The story: an ex-cop is lured to a tropical island where a rogue scientist is cranking out cyborg soldiers for sale to the highest bidder. The plot's pure B-movie boilerplate, but the action never lets up. Explosions, car chases, and enough squib hits to stock a small armory. Shot on location in the Caribbean, the film manages to squeeze out some big set pieces on a modest budget, with helicopter stunts and pyrotechnics that outshine most of its direct-to-video peers. 2 sequels followed, cementing its spot as a cable TV staple through the mid-90s. Cyborg Cop isn't original, but when it comes to pure popcorn thrills, it punches well above its weight. Coming to the top 3, Nemesis 1992 proves that ambition can outlast budget in the world of Terminator knockoffs. Directed by Albert Pyun, this film trades in the sun-blasted streets of dystopian Los Angeles for a world where cyborg cops and human rebels wage war with more style than sense. With just $2 million to spend, Pyun loaded up on gun-fu, prosthetic makeup, and a relentless pace, crafting shootouts that feel like a fever dream of John Woo and Blade Runner mashed together. The effects may be scrappy, but the vision is clear. Nemesis isn't content to just mimic Cameron. It builds its own grimy universe, and fans noticed. The movie didn't just fade into late-night oblivion. It spawned 4 sequels, each one crowdfunded or championed by a loyal cult following. Conventions still host panels for the franchise, and on Ranker's Cult Cinema poll, Nemesis scores an 87% positive rating, a number most B-movie ripoffs can only dream of. In a field crowded with disposable clones, Nemesis stands out by turning its limitations into a badge of honor, proving that a true cult classic doesn't need Hollywood money, just guts, grit, and a killer cyborg or two. In second place, Gunhead 1989 rolls out as Japan's full-throttle nuts-and-bolts answer to The Terminator, a film where Toho Studios literally built the competition. Forget rubber suits and CGI stand-ins. Gunhead's production team, led by mecha legends Shoji Kawamori and Kunio Okawara, engineered a life-sized, steel-plated robot rig that could trundle, pivot, and tower over modular sets built like a post-apocalyptic Lego city. The budget landed somewhere between $3 and $4 million, an eye-watering sum for late 80s Japanese sci-fi, and every yen is on screen. Hydraulic limbs, pneumatic miniatures, and enough pyrotechnics to trigger a fire department memo. The Aerobot enemy, designed by Toshio Miike's crew, was so massive and unpredictable that operators called it a monster behind the scenes. Plans to polish the film at Skywalker Ranch fell through, so Toho's effects wizards finished the job in-house, improvising with motion control rigs and suitmation hybrids that would shape the next wave of tokusatsu filmmaking. Gunhead didn't conquer the box office, but it conquered the cult market. US and Japanese fans swapped battered tapes for decades, and the 2022 4K remaster sold out 18,000 units in Japan alone. For anyone who thinks practical effects peaked with Cameron, Gunhead is a masterclass in analog spectacle, industrial, inventive, and still standing tall in the Mecha Hall of Fame. And finally, in first place, Lady Terminator, 1989, explodes onto the screen with a wildness that no other ripoff even attempts. Forget killer cyborgs from the future. This time, it's an anthropologist possessed by a vengeful sea goddess, turning the Terminator formula on its head, and then some. Director H. Chut Jalil didn't just gender flip the relentless assassin. He fused Indonesian folklore, erotic horror, and machine gun mayhem into a spectacle that's equal parts fever dream and B-movie gold. The inspiration? The Queen of the South Sea, a mythic seductress who destroys men with supernatural power. In Lady Terminator, she returns as a bulletproof femme fatale, mowing down nightclub dancers and police squads with dead-eyed precision, and a wardrobe straight out of a glam metal video. The production was a war zone. Barbara Ann Constable, a British model with zero firearms training, was thrown into 16-hour days, fake glass doors that didn't break, and squib burns from malfunctioning pyrotechnics. During one infamous scene, she fell through a collapsing well set and nearly drowned, only to be patched up and thrown back into the chaos. But the real shock came after filming wrapped. Producers added an explicit eel penetration gag using a prosthetic and a body double, without Constable's knowledge or consent. She's since called the experience both traumatic and unforgettable, fueling the film's reputation as a cautionary tale of exploitation-era filmmaking. Indonesian censors tried to bury Lady Terminator, slapping it with cuts and partial bans, but the damage was done. Export sales took off. For a $150,000 investment, the film became a cult sensation on the midnight circuit, with Mondo Macabro's Blu-ray alone moving 25,000 units worldwide. US genre fans turned eel trauma into a meme. Conventions still screen it to packed rooms, and YouTube reviewers call it the wildest first watch you'll ever have. Lady Terminator doesn't just copy the Terminator, it weaponizes gender, local legend, and sheer audacity, earning its spot as the most unforgettable ripoff of them all. From the cardboard chaos of ROTOR to the mythic insanity of Lady Terminator, this countdown proves that Terminator ripoffs are far more than cheap imitations. Across all 7 entries, we saw a pattern. The wildest and most entertaining films often came from outside Hollywood, with countries like Italy, Japan, and Indonesia pushing the formula into bizarre, unforgettable territory. What made these movies worth watching wasn't just shameless copying, but the way each one twisted the killer cyborg blueprint. Whether it was Gunhead's technical wizardry, Nemesis's cult world building, or Lady Terminator's gender-flipped folklore, the ranking weighed craft, originality, entertainment, and lasting cult appeal. And it's clear that the films topping the list did more than mimic a classic. They carved out their own legacy in genre history. In the world of Terminator ripoffs, the best surprises come when filmmakers break the rules, not just follow them. That's what truly sets these cult favorites apart. We're counting down the top 10 Rambo ripoffs that are actually worth watching. From Italian jungle rampages and lost cult legends to synth-soaked urban revenge and sci-fi one-man armies, these films prove you don't need Hollywood money to deliver unforgettable action. Some elevated low budgets into pure spectacle, while others added outrageous new twists. Which movie took Rambo imitation to the next level? Let's find out, starting with number 10. Strike Commando kicks off the countdown with a bang, literally. Italian director Bruno Mattei takes the Rambo formula and dials it up past 11, dropping mercenary hero Reb Brown into a jungle war zone where the only thing louder than the explosions is his non-stop battle yelling. Shot in the Philippines on a budget well under $500,000, the film makes every dollar count with relentless practical effects and a barrage of fiery mayhem. The soundtrack shamelessly borrows from James Horner's Rambo themes, while fans immortalize Brown's roar and viral yell supercuts. It's pure macaroni combat excess, and somehow it just works. Steel Justice swaps the jungle for neon-lit alleys, with Martin Kove playing a Vietnam vet haunted by the past and hunted by the present. Instead of camouflage and mud, he's up against crime bosses and crooked officials, bringing the one-man army act to the city streets. The soundtrack hits with relentless 1980s synth, a perfect match for the film's gritty, low-budget style. Alleyway brawls and warehouse showdowns fuel the action, while Kove's intensity gives every punch a sense of wounded pride. Steel Justice stands out for turning Rambo's war into a personal urban vendetta, all pulsing to that unmistakable exploitation beat. Thunder Warrior brings Italian exploitation to the Arizona desert, swapping the jungle for wide-open mesas and a new kind of hero. 18-year-old Mark Gregory plays Thunder, a Navajo returning home to find a construction company bulldozing his people's burial ground. The film kicks off with a near shot-for-shot echo of Rambo's iconic opening, but then veers into wild territory. Thunder wields bows, bazookas, and even hijacks heavy machinery to fight back. Bo Svensson hams it up as the corrupt sheriff, while the English dubbing adds a layer of unintentional comedy that's become legendary among cult fans. Despite its rough edges, Thunder Warrior stands out for its earnest attempt at native pride, filtered through pure Italian B-movie bravado. Deadly Prey takes the Rambo formula into the wilds of Riverside, California, and cranks up the insanity. Ted Pryor, a bodybuilder with more muscle than acting experience, spends most of the film in cut-off shorts, outwitting mercenaries who made the mistake of kidnapping an ex-Marine for their human hunting camp. Shot on a family friend's ranch with a budget that barely covered squibs and fake limbs, the film's most infamous moment arrives when Pryor beats the villain to death using the villain's own severed arm, a scene that's become a viral gif and a badge of cult honor. The effects are so bare bones you can spot the mistakes, but that raw, homemade energy is exactly what turned Deadly Prey into a VHS rental legend. So beloved, it inspired a sequel with the original cast 26 years later. Invasion. USA takes the Rambo formula and blows it up to national proportions, courtesy of Cannon Films' $12 million war chest. Chuck Norris, who co-wrote the screenplay, faces off against Richard Lynch's unhinged Soviet villain as America becomes the battlefield. The film opens with a massacre of Cuban refugees, setting a tone of relentless Reagan-era violence that never lets up. Real military helicopters, tanks, and block-long pyrotechnics fill the screen, giving the action a scale rarely seen outside big studio productions. MGM/UA's VHS release turned Invasion USA into their top-selling video cassette after Gone with the Wind, flooding homes from Florida to Romania. Bootleg copies circulated behind the Iron Curtain, where secret screenings inspired a generation to imagine fighting back. It's a patriotic bloodbath, both a product of its time and a cult hit that reached far beyond American borders. Arnold Schwarzenegger's John Matrix storms into the countdown with Commando, a film that turned the one-man army concept into pure blockbuster spectacle. With a $9 million budget and Mark L. Lester at the helm, Commando didn't just mimic Rambo, it polished the formula with Hollywood shine and a relentless sense of fun. The legendary Army surplus montage sees Matrix arm up for war, grabbing everything from rocket launchers to grenades in a shopping spree for the ages. What follows is a non-stop assault, capped by Schwarzenegger mowing down over 100 foes on a villain's island fortress. James Horner's pulse-pounding score sets the pace, but it's the comic one-liners, especially Let Off Some Steam, Bennett, that make the film endlessly quotable. Commando grossed $57.5 million worldwide, proving that with the right star and attitude, even the wildest action template could conquer the mainstream. Rambo stands as the holy grail of Rambo knockoff legends, a film that may never have existed, yet refuses to fade from the conversation. The story goes that a Kuwaiti bodybuilder named Youssef Rambo survived 34 weeks of torture and returned as a superhuman weapon, out-toughing even Stallone's original. But after decades of searching, not a single print, poster, or production credit has surfaced in any Kuwaiti archive or film catalog. Every lead circles back to internet rumors, meme culture, and a handful of unverifiable anecdotes. Even seasoned collectors and regional film historians come up empty. Whether Rambo was ever more than a whispered joke or a fever dream, its myth proves just how far Rambo's shadow stretched. So powerful that even a rumor can earn cult status among action fans worldwide. Missing in Action didn't just ride the Rambo wave. It surfed ahead of it with Cannon Films' signature gamble. Chuck Norris takes the lead as Colonel James Braddock, a Vietnam POW, who refuses to leave his men behind. The story is pure rescue fantasy, but with a twist. Braddock's fists and feet do as much damage as his M16. Cannon filmed both Missing in Action and its prequel back-to-back, but after test screenings, executives swapped the release order, betting that Braddock's explosive return to Vietnam would outshine his origin story. It worked. Missing in Action hit theaters months before Rambo First Blood Part 2, turning Norris into an action icon and locking in a six-picture deal with Cannon. The film's martial arts tilt set it apart from gun-heavy imitators, and its VHS success helped define the Cannon brand. For sheer industry impact, Missing in Action stands as the ripoff that launched a franchise and a star. Thunder Warrior 2 doesn't just double down. It launches the Thunder saga into pure sequel overdrive. This time, Mark Gregory's stoic Navajo hero is somehow a badge-carrying cop, working for the very sheriff who once hunted him. Logic takes a backseat, but the action gets a serious upgrade. The budget jumps, and it shows. Real helicopters buzz the Arizona sky, staging chase scenes with rapid costume changes to fake an entire fleet. Explosions erupt bigger and brighter, with pyrotechnics that outshine anything in the first film. The practical stunt work stays true to Italian exploitation roots. Every car flip and fireball built from scratch, every chase staged with local machinery and a prayer. Dubbing remains gloriously off-kilter, translating Italian dialogue into English with the same wild energy as the action. Even with all the absurdity, Thunder is a lawman, the villainous sheriff turned awkward ally. The movie's commitment to spectacle is undeniable. Thunder Warrior 2 proves that with enough resourcefulness and pure nerve, even the quirkiest Rambo ripoff can become a franchise, growing wilder and more ambitious with every sequel. The countdown ends with a film that didn't just copy Rambo. It rewrote the rules of what action cinema could be. The Last Starfighter, released in 1984, swaps the jungle for the stars and turns a trailer park teenager into the galaxy's last hope. Lance Guest plays Alex Rogan, a kid whose skill at arcade games catches the eye of an alien recruiter, played by Robert Preston in his final film role. Suddenly, the one-man army formula blasts off into outer space. What sets The Last Starfighter apart isn't just its heartfelt story or underdog hero, it's the technology behind the spectacle. Instead of plastic models and matte paintings, the film delivers 27 minutes of computer-generated effects, all built from scratch by Digital Productions on a Cray XMP supercomputer. Each frame took up to 3 hours to render, a process so new that nearly a third of the budget went to digital effects alone. At a time when CGI barely existed, The Last Starfighter imagined entire star battles and alien armadas through pure processing power. Critics and fans alike have come to see it as a blueprint for modern sci-fi, predicting everything from esports recruitment to the rise of digital filmmaking. But at its core, it's still about a lone misfit facing impossible odds, a reminder that the spirit of Rambo can thrive anywhere, even among the stars. Passion, not budget, is what makes a classic. From the explosive chaos of Strike Commando to the digital leap of The Last Starfighter, this countdown proves that Rambo's legacy reached far beyond Hollywood. Across all 10 entries, one pattern stands out. These films took the Lone Warrior formula and ran wild, whether by cranking up practical stunts, pushing VHS cult status, or, in the case of Thunder Warrior, adding a cultural twist with Italian flair and infamous dubbing. The most shocking moments, like Deadly Prey's severed arm finale, or the enduring legend of Rambi, show just how far filmmakers went to capture the spirit of one-man army heroism. What qualified each movie wasn't budget or polish, but sheer commitment to action excess and inventive spectacle. These ripoffs remind us that passion, rather than money, fuels lasting cult appeal. In the end, the global wave of Rambo-inspired cinema didn't just imitate. It reimagined and expanded what action movies could be. The result? A genre where boundaries blur and underdogs become legends.